Hey up, Geoff. Just watch with my wife who posed the question, if compulsory EV world is forced upon us, what happens to house prices? And you made a really good point. You said, listen, we will never get there. EVs were never meant to replace every internal combustion engine car. They're only there to get you out of your old car, then destroy that industry completely. He describes himself as a rider and a car guy. He has a small YouTube channel. He must have been writing that piece when he only had about 10 subscribers. He's got a very big YouTube channel, actually, and he just wants to be left alone to enjoy family and road trips. Well, sorry to burst your bubble this morning, Geoff, but I'm not going to leave you alone. I want to pick your brains on the EV nonsense that's going on and the all-out war on us motorists. How are you today? And welcome to TNT.
Not so bad at all. How are we all doing?
Oh, well, we're doing okay under the circumstances. You're a car guy. I like my cars as well. I like my internal combustion engines. Thank you very much. And I know you do too. But you have a channel that's really dedicated towards cars. And to give you your dues, Geoff, I checked the channel out. I like to spend a lot of time on YouTube anyway. And you've made some brilliant videos recently where you've dipped your toe. You've dipped your toe into the EV pool. You know, you've bit the bullet. You've seen what all the fuss was about, and you've tried to give a balanced view on what EVs are versus internal combustion engine cars, being a petrol or a diesel head. What conclusion did you come to after being out in a Tesla for who knows how long?
So I had the Tesla overnight, and I think people get the impression that I am an EV hater. I'm really not. I don't have a problem with electric vehicles. All of my problems with electric vehicles stem from the fact that we're being forced into them, and the fact that they wouldn't sell as a viable proposition if you remove all of the government subsidies. So we started tail end of last year doing these road trips where we do diesel versus electric, and myself and another YouTuber, we did 3 of them, and we proved pretty conclusively across 3 videos that you're better off with a cheap old diesel. And then I thought, you know what, I'm gonna have to go try this Tesla thing and see what it's all about. And I didn't hate it, but there's, for me, too many elephants in the room. There's too many things that you have to ignore. If you're going to jump on the EV thing, you have to basically live within a little bubble of ignoring all of the major aspects that are going on around the EV thing, notwithstanding the fact that they're expensive and many people are business users and they're getting into these EVs for tax reasons and not so much environmental reasons. So, you know, the channel was never about bashing EVs. The channel was just about, like you said in the intro, leave me alone to enjoy my old cars. But that seems to be happening less and less with creeping taxation and fuel prices and low traffic neighborhoods and all of this anti-car stuff that we've got going on. And people seem to now look to the channel, for updates and guidance on what the next ludicrous anti-car agenda is, and it seems to be growing.
Do you not think the bubble is bursting anyway, whether or not we are contributing to that or not? And by that, what I mean is, people were buying EVs on it's the next big thing. It's clean, it's efficient, it's cheaper to charge that thing than it is to, fill up your old car with diesel or petrol. There's going to be a network of charging things. You're not going to have to worry about polluting the atmosphere. You're going to not pay any road tax on it. It's going to be cheap to insure, and so on and so forth. But one by one, these dominoes seem to be falling down, especially in the insurance front. Now, as a diesel driver, a proud and unashamed diesel driver, I've even seen my insurance premiums jump up this year. But some of the EV premiums, some insurance companies, it's almost like they don't want to take on the liability. I've seen quotes for 5,000-6,000 quid for the year coming from people with clean driving licenses, no claims discount through the roof. But yet it almost seems to be some insurance companies are subtly trying to wash their hands of the EVs, given that they're a massive fire hazard. And when those things go up, my friend, it takes about 3 days to put the fire out. What do you reckon?
Yeah, I completely agree. I think the insurance one is interesting because it's not just down to EVs that the problem. We are still seeing a knock-on of the impact that we had on the car market, even during Corona, when we had not enough microchips to go around, essentially. And that is still playing into the insurance costs today. So modern cars, they're much more complex to fix, which means when cars are crashed and insurance companies have to deal with them, everything is more expensive. And now, because of delays on parts, everything is taking longer. So when your claim goes through, instead of your car being fixed in a week, it's taking 3 weeks, and that costs a lot more money. So that has a big knock-on effect to the price of insurance. So it's not just the EVs, but the EV one is huge as well. Because if you've bought your EV for 80 grand, and because of the way they're depreciating, it's now only worth 40 grand, and 39 of that is the battery. there's actually no value in the car itself. So when it comes insurance time and you do have a crash, the companies just aren't going to want to fix them, which again has a knock-on effect with everything that the EV market is all about. Because if there's no value in the cars when they're secondhand, then it impacts everything further along the chain. But like you say, insurance is everybody that's being affected by that. We've got major problems in the UK with Range Rovers as well. So Range Rover are massively struggling over here because they're being stolen so much. And everybody's premiums, pretty much regardless of what car it is going up. And we're not talking going up by, a few pounds either. I'm getting emails from people, elderly drivers with little old cars that you wouldn't think their insurance premium there's no reason for it to go up. And they're emailing me saying, Geoff, it's gone up by £300 a year. What's going on? So it's across the board.
Yeah, I've found that myself. I mean, I got a shock. My insurance premium was due up for renewal there on the 1st of February. So, of course, they write out, I went through a broker and they said, okay, it's gone up from 680 last year to 850. And I said, well, why is this? What's the best you can do for me? And actually, you know what they do? They knock 50 or 60 quid off and they said, the best we can do is 770. And then I very blasé said, forget about it. I'm going to go onto another price comparison website. I'm sure I can get it for a hell of a lot cheaper than that. Geoff, when I went on to confused.com, the cheapest brokerage quote I got from them was 950 quid, right? Which was 200 quid more expensive than the cheapest price my current insurer was offering me. And I have full no claims. I don't use it for anything wild. The postcode's not bad. And when I asked them for the reason behind that, I asked the girl, and I wasn't expecting her to give me an answer. She said, we've been told by the insurance companies that the price of parts for secondhand cars has gone through the roof and there's no availability there. So if you do have a prang, we might have to pay to put you in a courtesy car for a very, very long time. It's just an absolute mess out there. And as a petrol head and a car enthusiast who keeps a finger on the pulse, would you concur with that? Is it a crazy market that we're in at the minute?
Yeah, that's exactly right. And then everything starts at the top, doesn't it? So in the UK now, we've got these electric vehicle mandates, which mean that manufacturers have to sell a certain number of electric cars. Otherwise, they're going to get fined. So the problem that you've got is if the car sales slow down at the top of the market, and if people are going to dealers and the dealer is only offering EV, what that person's going to do is they're going to go buy the used market. But that was a new car customer. So they're now in the used market, which is pushing the prices up of those used cars. And there's a knock-on effect all the way down the line. So we've been seeing in the UK for the last few years, I'm now paying £1,500, £2,000 for a car that really is only worth 500 quid. So the prices are all up across the board. But as you say, if the cost of putting you in that courtesy car for 3 weeks is significantly higher than it used to be, which could also be as well, many of these hire companies dumped a lot of their hire cars after Corona, and I don't think they've replaced them. So I think there's a lot less hire cars around anyway, and less supply means higher price. So again, it's sort of a perfect storm. The difficulty I have as a motoring guy is I can't really see it getting any better. So I've got a multi-car policy. I've got a few classics on there as well, and all my cars are old, and none of them are really worth any money. But even my renewal is going to be coming up in June. And right now I'm thinking, well, I think I've got 7 cars on the policy at the moment. Combined value of all my cars is nothing. They're all old and rubbish. But even I am thinking when it comes around to June, I could do with getting down to like 3 cars. So if you say, there's an agenda to get us out of cars and to make the hobby unenjoyable, well, it's working for me because I'm now thinking I'm going to get rid of half my cars because it's not worth keeping them. Oh, well, they've won. It's worked.
And I would say for you too, with all due respect, come June time, it'll be squeaky bum time for Geoff Buys Cars. Maybe you're going to rename your YouTube channel Geoff Sells Cars when you get your next insurance premium
right.
For a multi-car policy in June. We've got to take a real quick headline break, Geoff, just for 30 seconds. And when we come back, I want to look at some of the psychological issues that have come along with EV ownership. And I'll delve into that in a little bit more detail when we come back after the news headlines. So please stay tuned for more. We'll be right back here on TNT, today's News Talk.
Now, TNT Radio News.
You are completely obsessed with
breaking news.
Matt Boyland here with your TNT headlines. Mark Zuckerberg has apologised on national television to the families of children who have been harmed or sexually exploited on social media. Pakistan's former Prime Minister Imran Khan has been handed another lengthy jail term just a day after being jailed for a decade. And Russia and Ukraine have carried out their largest ever prisoner swap, each side releasing just under 200 captured soldiers.
Are you enjoying listening to TNT Radio? Do you think we're doing a good job? Then please let us know. Why not leave us a like or a positive review or comment on Facebook, Gab, or Getter? Help us get the word out as we cover the biggest topics of our time on today's News Talk, TNT Radio.
Okay, I'm just in a very frank and open conversation this morning with Geoff Thompson, aka Geoff Buys Cars. And by the way, if you don't already do so, check out his YouTube channel, Geoff Buys Cars, and also you can follow him on X or Twitter at Geoff, Geoff Buys Cars. Now, something else that I want to look at this morning with you. It's a little bit off topic, but it ties in with the EV thing. And by the way, let me make it clear. I'm like you. If someone wants to buy an EV, if someone wants to run an EV, let them crack on. I have no problem with it. If they want to be a cyclist, if they want to be a foot passenger, want to use public transport, that's their call. My issue with also like your issue is when you try and force this down people's throats. And two things that have cropped up apparently as a result of EV ownership are two conditions that have now been recognized by psychologists, right? The first one of which is called charging anxiety, and the other one is called range anxiety. Okay, charging anxiety and range anxiety. So basically, you know, when you get your mobile phone, some people are happy to let it run to the red line before they stick it into the charger. Other people, when it dips down into the yellow bar, they panic. They feel they have to hook that thing up. Apparently, the same thing is happening with EV owners. They want to be as charged as possible at all times. So you'll see them with the wires coming out at the supermarkets if they can find a charging port. They're afraid. They're afraid of the charge dropping down low. It's giving them issues. And range anxiety is another one. I felt a little bit smug last night. I put petrol or diesel in my car. I hit the trip computer and it estimated I had a range of about 520 miles if I drive conservatively. That made me feel good. When I press that starter button, the car starts and I could drive, you know, to Land's End if I wanted to. Not so much the case if you're a Tesla driver. What do you reckon? Are they going to start cracking up and needing medication before year end?
Well, we've seen all sorts going on in both range anxiety and charge anxiety. But I think it's funny what you just said there about you get that great feeling when you've it's usually payday, isn't it? Payday comes around and you put a full tank in, having put like 20 or 30 pound in throughout the month. You put that full tank in, you think, I got 500-600 miles I can play with here. But for me, that's like the essence of freedom, you know, that feeling of I can go wherever I want. And if I don't take my mobile phone with me, no one will know that I'm there. And again, that sort of plays into what I think the EV agenda is all about. You can't have an EV without a smartphone. You can't have it without a smart card. And everybody, you know, your energy provider knows exactly where you are. Your bank probably knows exactly where you are. But on the range anxiety stuff, I mean, there was a phrase that propped up the last time we did a YouTube challenge where a gentleman said to Lee, the other YouTuber I do the challenges with, he said, ABC, always be charging, which means anytime you go anywhere, you go for a coffee, you go to get your hair cut, you go to the supermarket, you got to find somewhere to plug in your car. Now, I don't know about you, but my life's too short for that, far too short. So it just means everywhere you are, you're sniffing around for the next charger. You're adding yourself extra breaks on your journey to get your car charged. And then you've got the rage that we're seeing at charging points, you know, particularly on key holidays. So in the UK, Christmas time, we've got a couple of key service stations just off the motorway towards the Lake District. And there were queues, like miles of queues for people to get their cars charged. And then you've got people almost breaking out into fights. You get to the charger's not working. There's somebody else trying to charge theirs. You want to get in first. It's interesting to watch it unfold, but you can see the mental strain that this has on people. Because if you've got something like a long-range Tesla, you might have 300 or so miles to play with. But some of these smaller EVs, the little Peugeots and the little Vauxhalls, they've got 150 miles range. And in most of my cars, that's the point that the fuel light comes on. And that's full. So you're meant to be charged, you know, they say don't charge over 80% and then fill up when you get to less than 20%. So you've only got 60% of the true car's range to play with anyway. And on a small EV, you've got 60 miles before you've got to stop to charge again. You can almost walk.
Where's the fun?
It's
Where's the fun? Where's the fun? And
Where
do you
is
know
the
what?
fun?
Actually,
Where is
just
the fun?
talking to you this morning, I can think of another syndrome that might appear for people like us: SDS, smug driver diesel syndrome, whereby we waft past these queues of frustrated EV owners scrambling for charging points. We don't have that problem. There's one other thing I want to touch on with you just before we wrap this up at 22. You made a really good post on your Twitter page. Somebody had put a message up to say, "Hey up, Geoff, just watch with my wife," who posed the question, if compulsory EV world is forced upon us, what happens to house prices? And you made a really good point. You said, listen, we will never get there. EVs were never meant to replace every internal combustion engine car. They're only there to get you out of your old car, then destroy that industry completely. And my friend Ben Pyle, who comes on here a lot, he runs a website called Climate Debate UK. He said, listen, EVs are simply a bridge to possibly owning no cars at all or being completely dependent on public transport. Do you still stand by that? Because I do believe that myself. I think they're a bridging tool because the bubble is bursting. And then when you get out of those cars, if the government gets their way and you can't buy any new internal combustion engine cars, it means we're really stuck between a rock and a hard place.
Yeah, 100%. And you've only got to look at what's going on with the EV market. So, they're struggling to sell new. They're absolutely hardly selling at all secondhand. But now you've got a real shift in the media. So whereas for the last few years, the media's been very much pro-EV, we're now starting to see the media go for electric vehicles. We're seeing government legislation and taxation go for electric vehicles. So electric vehicles in the UK now, they're going to have to pay road tax. So all of the incentives and all of the great things in inverted commas, about EVs that got people into them in the first place, the rug is now starting to be pulled from underneath them. And with that, because the car manufacturers are so heavily invested in EV technology, well, what happens next? Well, when you've thrown all your money and put all your eggs in one basket, where does it really leave you? So these manufacturers at the moment, they're really struggling. They can't sell these EVs. They're being heavily discounted. I saw one this morning. It's a Peugeot I think it's the E208. They're 30 grand. You can now pick one up brand new for less than 15. So the discounts that they're having to put on these cars to try and shift them, the knock-on effect for the manufacturers is huge. So I think we're going to start to see a major deconstruction of the car industry because they've all, jumped down that idea of EVs and it's starting to bite them.
It's biting them in the ass quite heavily. You know what? I could talk to you about this until the cows come home. It's something that it's a fascinating topic for me to see how it's all unraveling, but we're pretty much out of time now. The one thing I would again urge people to do is check out Geoff's YouTube channel, which is Geoff Buys Cars on YouTube, and he does give an open and honest assessment of life with an EV. He did go and he did take a Tesla out for a tax drive, so there's a warts and all 50 odd minute long clip on that where he's being honest and he's being open about it, but he's also not following any particular agenda. So I would really encourage you to check that out. He's got a great YouTube channel and I have actually been dipping in and out to it. Personally, it's set aside from TNT. I really like it, like the content. So check it out. Geoff Buys Cars on YouTube and also his X page or Twitter page at Geoff Buys Cars. Listen, many thanks to you for coming on this morning and putting a smile on a lot of people's faces. There's a ton of people in the live chat at the minute leaving tons of comments about this. Unfortunately, I haven't been able to read them, but rest assured, you're striking a chord with many listeners here this morning. So big thanks to you, Geoff, and hopefully we'll talk again sooner rather than later here on TNT, if that's okay with you. And big thanks for you taking time out of your day this morning.